Don't see any. Thank you. Brian Carter.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm Brian Carter, Meridian, Idaho, District 20 constituent, Chairman, Vice Chairman, committee members, distinguished constituents, and attendees. We are here today to provide testimony as to that of swaying you, the committee members, to that of voting in favor or in opposition to Senate Bill 1389. I am not here to give talking points about the detail of the bill, for you've heard a lot of that already. Nor am I here to give talking points as to the effectiveness of carrying a defensive tool of choice. You've also heard that. However, what I am here to talk about is of how it is of my deepest pleasure and delight to present to you to that of how I and others purpose to be against this bill. Further, that many in this room also purpose to be against this bill, including but not limited to NRA Representative Dakota Morris, Lisa Wolf, whom you've just heard from, Rich Cheney, and some who are not here, such as Greg Pruitt, founder of Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, Larry Pratt of the Gun Owners Association, and over the thousands of people who marched in the rally and over the 11,000 signatures that were presented to the Senate committee. In fact, State Senator Winder, in his legislative update he sent out earlier this week, did qualify of that how he and other Idahoans who begin travel in a rural area and then travel through several cities along the way, such as highways and freeways going through cities, are also purposed to be against this bill. Even further, that those who spoke at the Senate committee hearing to sway committee members to vote in opposition to this bill, they being the likes of chiefs of police, of those in the local media outlets, Moms Demand Action, and other anti-civil rights groups. In fact, they purpose even now to not be against this bill. You see, distinguished committee members, those purposing to not be against this bill are standing up and rebelliously refusing to recognize the value of life. However, those whom I've named above earlier who purpose to stand against this bill, to be against this bill, choose not to stand as such. Instead, to that of our being against this bill, and I say, quote, against, unquote, we choose to stand in such a way that we are against this bill, that this bill is against us and upon our backs. I don't have my visual where I can tape that bill upon my back such that it is against me. In that way, I am against that bill. That we would carry this to each of you, that you would sign in the due pass column and recommend to the House, that we could then carry it through the 3 readings of the House, being against us on our backs, that we would then carry it to the Honorable Governor's desk, again, against on our backs, that it would be signed, and finally, on our backs, to the people of Idaho. In 2013, so let me track back. That's what I mean by the word against. It is against us that we present it to you humbly and honorably that you look at this. In 2013, this committee voted in favor of and with a due pass recommend to the House that of House Bill 183, the bill repealing a portion of Idaho Code as found then in Idaho Code 50-308, that portion enacted in 1893, yes, 1893, 120 years ago in 2013, which read, cities shall have the power to regulate, punish, and prohibit the carry of concealed weapons. Thank you, Representative Holtzclaw, if I may, for your time and efforts in that process. You see, just as this committee did with House Bill 183 in 2013, voting in favor of this Senate Bill 1389 does continue this committee's long-standing dedication of ensuring we, the people of Idaho, your constituency, maintain our rights as enumerated in our Idaho Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, to that of, quote, defending life and, quote, pursuing safety, that we may, quote, pursue happiness. It is my honor of testimony to place before this committee to that of, please vote yes, with a do pass recommend on Senate Bill 1389. Thank you. I will stand for any questions.
Are there questions? Hearing none. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Diana David. Welcome to State Affairs.
Good morning.
Please state your name and who you represent.
Diana David, and I represent myself. Chairman, members of the committee, I'm here to oppose the bill, even as a gun owner for the last 30 years. What makes me oppose it is I bring something to the table that I suspect most people in this room do not, and that is the fact that I'm a victim, and I lost a family member to gun violence. I'm not just a number that most of you read about in the paper and see online. I'm a name, I'm a face. I'm one of millions of families that have experienced the reality most folks don't want to even think about. I've seen things no one should have to see, and I lived through things no one should have to live through. And I'm here because I do not want anyone in this room or anyone on the planet to ever have to experience what my family experienced. When I read the proposed changes in the existing law, and as a risk manager for 25 years, I understand preventative measures and laws to keep people safe from things like appliances, equipment, tools, food, so on. And I understand a sensible approach to minimize potential losses doesn't have to take away our access to the items we like to use or enjoy the foods we like to eat. They just keep the likelihood of a tragedy from happening. And we see these protections in action every day through consumer protection laws. But while we're averaging 80 people shot and killed every day in the United States, the gun industry is an industry where minimal oversight is in place, and the few sensible laws on the books designed to help minimize deaths and injuries, like the law at risk today, are being eliminated or eroded. Any other industry where a product would cause so much havoc would be investigated, possibly shut down, certainly more closely monitored, with more appropriate regulations. But while that doesn't happen with guns, we're not seeing it happening with guns, but items like toys, medications, herbal supplements, and so on have been completely pulled from the market. Where guns are concerned, as a nation, we've managed to lessen sensible oversights and add more of them to the market, different designs, and by doing that, increasing the risk for accidents and deaths. That doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't make sense as an actuary or a loss prevention manager. And I can tell you from personal experience, it will particularly not make sense when one of you gets the phone call you never ever thought you were going to get. I cannot stress enough the importance of retaining common sense measures, which includes laws on the books to add charges to a criminal's offenses if something happens, not eliminate loss so the perpetrator's sentencing ends up to be less than what it should be. I promise you, when your family is a victim, you want every law that was broken thrown at that person responsible for maiming or killing the person you love. Stripping an existing law that adds layers of protection for you, your family, our citizens, and our police officers by eliminating requirements for someone to earn their concealed carry permit and prove they know how to handle a gun and pass a background check, it just contradicts common sense. I don't stand here for any personal gain. I can never bring my loved one back. He's gone forever. But I can save, possibly, someone you love by telling you with absolute authority that denial is a powerful elixir. If we retain sensible measures of requiring a permit to conceal carry, it can reduce accidental shootings by someone unqualified to handle a gun and intentional shootings by someone who shouldn't have one in the first place, but wasn't required to reveal that they're unqualified to even obtain a concealed carry permit. Requiring a permit doesn't infringe on any of our Second Amendment rights. We still have the right, but we need to accept responsibilities come with that right. And if we allow this free-for-all approach, I believe we put our men and women in uniform at higher risk, something none of us should saddle them with, because their burden and commitment as police officers to protect us is already difficult enough. We need actions to back our words when they hear that we say we appreciate them, because taking away the existing requirements turns those words into nothing more than lip service, because it pulls the rug right out from underneath them. As a gun owner, I do not believe my right is more important than everything else, and I believe gun ownership must come with compromises and checks and balances to ensure the best safety measures possible for our police and for our citizens. Dismantling a sensible law and creating an environment that just asks for trouble, I feel, is selfish and irresponsible. As I've already stated, there's nothing in this for me. My loved one is gone, and nothing can change that. But there's something in what I say for you and your loved ones, as well as your sanity, because I never want you to have to see what I've seen, nor experience the day when you realize everything you stand for right now may have been everything that contributed to the death of your loved one. Please rethink your position and realize you need to do all you can to minimize the risks for your family, your constituents' families, our police officers, and saving you from having to not live through the nightmare no one should have to endure. And I thank you for your time.
Representative Batt?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Ms. David. You had mentioned in your testimony that this legislation, and correct me if I misunderstood you, I wrote down that you said the legislation is lessening the punishment for the criminal. I think you
I
said
did-
that weighs in, and I'm not, I would like to know where in the bill it does that.
Well, ma'am, I'd like to say, as we strip away layers of protection, that's where it lessens. If you had a family member who was gravely injured, died, handicapped for the rest of their life, whatever the case might be, having every law that may have been broken filed as a charge against the person who did it, because you want them to stay in prison. You want them to, especially if someone dies, you want them to be held accountable. You want to see that. I didn't exactly say it in that specific way, but that's where I see it, because when there's nothing, no law that says that they didn't break a law, that's one more that they won't be charged with. So that's maybe another however long not serving time and adequate punishment for causing a lot of pain to you or your family.
Further questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.